For the last 3 decades, Knowledge Center at Bursa has offered technology, resources, services, space, and a sense of community. Since 1985, 14,000 titles have been collected, with care and attention to high financial literacy standards. In collaboration with a global community of institutions, we ensure access to the world's diverse intellectual and cultural economic heritage, as well as fast online services for connectivity to the financial world. Serving the Bursa Malaysia community and beyond, Knowledge Center at Bursa empowers you in your trading and investment analysis research.
Financial information at my fingertips.
Visit Knowledge Center at Bursa Malaysia today for the collections, for the services, for the sense of community.
You have suffered financial loss while investing, and you think your bank, broker, fund management company, unit trust management company, PRS provider or distributor, or their agent or representative is responsible. You need help sorting out the problem or want to seek redress. Where do you go? Sidrek is here to help you start the conversation and reach some resolution. First, lodge a formal complaint with a company that sold or offered you the unit trusts, shares, derivatives, or other capital market product or service. But you're not happy with their response. You have 180 days from their final written reply to come to Sidrek. Or if there's no written response, and it's been 90 days since you wrote to them, you don't need to wait longer. You may come to Sidrek even though you haven't received a final response yet. Sidrek first checks the eligibility of your claim. For example, is it within Sidrek's claim limit? Is it against a member of Sidrek? And so forth. If your case is eligible, we begin the dispute resolution process. All information in this process is confidential. We get both you and the member you're complaining against to sit with us and have a conversation. Documents and information will be required from both parties. No lawyers are allowed in the mediation process, as we keep the discussions informal and private. Our mediators are impartial and will hear both sides out and help parties communicate constructively towards resolving the dispute. 2 outcomes are possible at this stage. Either both you and the member agree to a settlement, or you don't. If the both of you agree to a settlement, an agreement is signed and the mediation process ends successfully. But if both you and the member fail to reach a satisfactory resolution, mediation has thus failed. But don't worry, Sidrek then proceeds to the next stage, adjudication. During adjudication, parties are given the chance to provide any further information to help their case and ask each other further questions. Our adjudicator will then study and consider all facts and information provided, including the conduct of the parties, laws, and best industry practices, as well as what's fair and reasonable. Sidrek's adjudicator will then make a final decision on the dispute and the monetary claim. If the decision is in your favor, it could be a full award or a partial award for your claim. But if the decision isn't in your favor, then no award will be made. You, the investor, will still have a choice. If you reject the decision, Sidrek will simply close the case and you may seek other legal avenues for redress. If you choose to accept the decision, however, the member has to comply with it. Once the parties have confirmed compliance to the decision, Sidrek will close the case. So let Sidrek help start the conversation towards resolution. For more information, visit sidrek.com.my or call 03 2282 2280.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar brought to you by Bursa Malaysia and managed by LifeChamp. Today, our webinar's title is Pitfalls and Opportunities in ESG Investing. So welcome, everybody. So my name is Shen Chu. I'm the moderator for this webinar. Now, ESG has become increasingly more important, and nowadays, investors can no longer ignore this ESG aspect, which is environmental, social, and governance aspect in investing, for us to assess any material risk and also evaluate whether there's any potential growth opportunities. So today, we are going to discuss how ESG can cause the fall in share prices and also the rise in share prices. All right. So disclaimer, whatever we share on this webinar is only for educational purpose. So in no way that I give any recommendation for you to buy or sell any listed companies mentioned here. If you decide to make any investment decisions, you are 100% responsible for all your investment risks. Allow me to briefly introduce our speaker today. He is none other than King Hao Kai, the senior analyst of Spiral Thinker Group. So King began his career as an oil and gas engineer in the local public listed oil and gas outfit. After more than 10 years in the industry, he decided to move on to pursue his passions in investing by joining the Spiral Thinker Group. So King recently completed the CFP certification program and is currently overseeing the Omega division in providing portfolio consultation and accounting services to the group's distinguished clients. King possesses astute observation skill and is meticulous in his thought process. He has a structured way in information gathering and deriving insights from both quantitative and qualitative driven data. All right, so without further ado, let us welcome King to this webinar. How are you, King?
Hope everyone is having a great, Friday night.
Yes.
Yep.
Fantastic. So I'm glad to have you here.
Yeah.
So I will just stop sharing my screen. So hand over the screen control to you.
Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay. Yeah. So let me start. Okay, with today, we have 4 main topics to talk about. Okay, the first one is we'll discuss about what is ESG and what are the features or what are the things that we're going to look at when we want to embrace this ESG investing. And the second one, we'll go into, what are the data, which type of data are collected, okay, and what are the governments they are doing or the regulatories. What are their milestones and how the companies that are embracing the change, okay, in the ESG disclosure. And the third one, we are going to discuss in more details about each of the E factors, S factors, and also G factors. And we'll also discuss about, we'll also be discuss about the sample, the examples, and the stocks, which as case studies. And the last one, we'll have 2 case studies to discuss about is about the local companies. Okay, so let us start. So the first one is, what is ESG? Okay, basically ESG stands for, E stands for environmental, S stands for social, and G stands for governance. So environmental means it captures the environmental risks and opportunities of a companies. So it means that you consider how companies deal with the environmental, deal with the nature and their actions or their impacts to the surrounding. Okay, such as are they producing carbon emissions? Are they changing the climate? Okay, and are they producing a pollution or waste? So all these factors we are considering as environmental. In the social, okay, social means how a company they manage their relationship with basically its employees, okay, their suppliers, their customers, and the community they operate in. Okay, so actually this social factor is quite, is quite famous. Okay, one of the popular risks to Malaysian companies, because basically we are quite a labor intensive. We have quite a lot of labor intensive industries and companies, right? So we hire a lot of laborers, especially foreign labor. So all these are the target of the foreign governments and regulators, basically. And we are going to share a little bit, a few examples later on. And the G basically is, it shows that is to evaluate how companies deal with their leadership. Okay, we look at their board directors, we look at their management team. Okay, and also we will be looking about their remuneration, their salaries. Okay, and then their accounting standards and how they treat their shareholders. So basically, all these are the issues or the factors that we're looking for when we talk about governance. So basically, ESG is, in a conclusion, is, in a short summary, is basically is about how we're going to evaluate the non-financial information, the risks and the factors about a companies or industry. Okay, and then how we're going to integrate it into our investment and decision-making processes. Okay, and it's becoming a more important criteria for the investor, okay, to filter out, to screen the investment, especially for those socially responsible investors. Basically, actually, is if you guys familiar about this Sharia compliance, it's basically is a little bit similar concept with Sharia. Okay, and this KWSC, I think a few years ago, 2015, they came up with the Sharia compliance funds, right? So in the future, it has been announced actually. So EPF also, they plan to launch a sustainable savings options or the funds for their members. So in the future, so you can always choose for the conventional type of options or the funds. And the next is, of course, the Sharia. And the third one is the members are giving the options to choose for the ESG saving as well. So these are becoming standard already. So that's why ESG matter, because right now it's become a buzzword among the investment community. Okay, with the increasing number of investors, everyone is talking about this. Fund managers, okay, and researchers, investors, okay, the big sovereign funds, so and governments, regulators like the Bursa, SEC, everyone is talking about this. You can see it all in the news or the articles. So it has become a mainstream. Okay, and for example, it's like you can see that investors are now becoming more and more participate. Okay, especially when they want to elect or they want to look for the board. So you can take an example for the Exxon board shakeup. Okay, so it means I think there's this minor shareholder is a fund, so they call to change two of the Exxon board directors because they are sort of like reluctant or they are slow in adopting the ESG. And I'm not sure if you guys are still remember during the MCO, okay, the KL and Selangor, we were facing a water disruption, right? Following the river contamination. Basically, it's due to odor contaminations, odor pollutions by a factory. So it's also a wake-up call for all of us to know and to take aware of. So there are companies which they conduct this kind of activities, which is no good to the environment. So everyone is trying to want to know more about how the companies that invested, okay, basically they need to do good, okay. And then it's becoming since everyone is targeting and to mandate the ESG policies for the companies. So there are more and more funds, okay, and ETF, okay, they are mandating the ESG across all the companies that they're going to invest or they are investing in. So you can see that the estimation, okay, done by Deloitte, okay, so they are saying that you can see there's a huge increase starting from 2018 to 2020. Okay, right now it's about nearly 40% of all AUM, okay, around the world, okay, they are adopting this ESG. So this means that actually ESG is becoming a mainstream already, from a nice to have to a must have. So all the companies, they must be start to reporting and to claim that they are ESG compliance in order for all the funds to be able to invest into them. Okay, so this is a big change. So this is the force that going to, to push all the companies to go and evaluate and to go and disclose, and so that they are able to comply to the ESG compliance requirement. And the third one is because also actually since we know that there's a lot of climate changes, okay, we are starting to experience it right now. So all these are actually there's going to be ongoing business risk to all the companies, okay, as well as more stringent policies will shape the market. It's like, the labor force, the carbon emissions, when they enforce the carbon credit, okay, like the labor force, let's say, like the Top Gulf is a very good example, right? So because of the S factors, the social, because of the labor force issue, so they are being banned by US CBP. So they cannot export the glove to US. Okay, so that has caused them to lose about 3.6 billion. It's a big money even for the Top Glove itself. So they lost a lot of sales, and not even that, they are losing to the competitors because they cannot sell to the US, they cannot export their glove to the US. So these are very big risks to the companies, okay? And also, non-ESG compliant means that the banks or the funds, they may be reluctant to borrow you the money. So your borrowing cost will be increased as well. So all these are, right now is, before this is unknown, but going forward is going to be a big risk or non-risk to all the companies. That's why all the companies, they need to be ready to accept this. And of course, all this will have a big impact on the asset, on their stock price, and also performance. Okay, just imagine when all the funds they are going into, they will be investing into it, so they'll push out the share price, right? As well as if you are not compliant with the ESG, means the funds they cannot invest into this company. So when they pull out their funds, it will cause a crash in the share price as well, especially for the listed companies. So next, okay, ESG rating agency. So how do we know this company whether they are compliant with ESG or not? Of course, there must be some reference, right? So as similar to what the market, in the past and right now they do for the bonds, so there will be rating agencies, right, who are going to rate the bonds. So actually the similar agencies right now, they are also coming out. It's a new stream of business for them. Okay, you can see all the familiar names over here, MSCI, okay, S&P over here. So they are coming out to create a standard and a ratings, basically to give ratings, okay, to all the companies based on the data that they collected. So you can see that right now, the biggest one, the well-known one is for the ESG rating is MSCI, okay. Sustainability is a Morningstar company, Refinitiv, S&P Global, so on. And if at the rating, of course, right now with the rise of passive investing or the indexing investing, okay, so everyone also coming up with the funds or ETF that trace this ESG index. Okay, so you also have, they come up with all sorts of index. It's like right now, FTSE for Good series is adopted by the Bursa as well. So we have FTSE for Good Bursa Malaysia Index as well. And of course, all these are foreign, but of course, our local investment banks and research houses also, they started to begin to come up with their own standards and their own ratings as well. Of course, it's focusing on the local listed companies. I will show some samples later on. Okay, so where can we get the ESG rating, right? Actually, some of it are quite open. Okay, I will list two for basically they cover for mainly foreign stocks. They also cover for some of the well-known listed KLC stocks. Like the first one is of course the Morningstar Sustainalytics. So you can go to this website. Okay, over here, you can just go and have to take a look. Not every listed KLC companies will have the ratings up. Okay, basically those are big ones, the big names. Okay, or the blue chips, they will have this. So you can see that basically they will give you the rating. Okay, and even the ranking, and they will show you as well the industry comparison among their regional or global peers, like the Nestle competing with the Okra Nissin Food from Japan, how their ranking and their rating. Okay, and the next one will be the MSCI. Okay, so here also, I just some snapshot from this website. Basically, they'll give you as well as the rating, their own rating. Okay, and then what is the history, and then what are the contribution, what is the ranking. Okay, all sort of information you can find on the website. As for the local analyst report, actually starting this year, you can see a lot, especially all those major research houses, they already adopting it and publishing it. Of course, not every companies they covered, they will have this rating. I will just take, okay, for example, for Maybank, when you saw this ESG mark, means that this company covered by them, actually they will have a rating for the ESG. So there will be a separate page, okay, in the report, in the analyst report, there will be stating the details. Okay, basically it's about ESG issues and some of their ratings over here, their in-house rating. And you can see CIMB, okay, this is the, basically it's a top graph they published back in 2021. So you can see they only, at that time, they only list whether this company is a Sharia compliance or not. But during this year, you can see that they started to publish the ESG rating, okay? And next one, you can see Afirma as well. This was, I took it was back in April last year. Okay, basically there's nothing about ESG information in their report, but this year you can see that they started to publish, okay, regarding the ESG ratings, the risk, yeah, all sort of information inside the reports. So RSB as well, same. Last year none, but this year you can see they start to have a ESG score over here. Okay. So all this, you guys can refer to the analyst report, but not every company will have this ESG rating. So it's still an ongoing effort by all the local analysts. And this is the, you can also find the ESG rating for some of the listed company. It's basically, you can get it this from this Bursa website. Okay, they will publish it, I think half a year, they will revise it. Basically, it's based on the research or the rating is done by the FTSE Russia. Okay, and not all companies will be given the rating. Only those listed in the FPN AMAS index. Okay, it will be evaluated and given as you rating. And this one I just snapshot a few. Because I want to show that ESG rating is not about, it's not compare among the industry. Okay, like we say, okay, this one, healthcare. Okay, you can see that the rating among the healthcare and among these utilities Tenaga, because we know that Tenaga, they produce a lot of this power, they generate power from the coal, right? So basically the coal power plant is giving a lot of pollution to the environment, right? So supposedly they are not environmental friendly, okay? But still, they are given a 4-star rating. 4-star is the highest top 25 ESG rating, okay? And you can see that Supermax is basically is producing a glove, right? So of course there was some issue on the S or on the G lah. Okay, but I just want to show that basically it's not, the rating is not about industry. Okay, not to say that this industry which is a environmental pollutant, they will be given a very low risk, very low rating. No, it's a comparison among the players, among the peers within the same industry. Okay, you can see that among the globe, the healthcare industry, some are getting a quite high rating, some are given very low rating, similar to even the telco as well, or even like the EMS players. Okay, yeah. And the next is when we know about the rating, right? And we know where to look for, and also we know basically we can check for the index. Okay, but as an investor, if we care for the ESG, how do we know that when it comes to the investing approaches? Okay, there are a few types of teaching or camps among it. As you can see from a lot of articles, basically you can hear a lot about ESG investing, SRI, socially responsible investing, or like impact investing. Okay, all these actually, they are all referenced, they are used interchangeably, and they are referred to the ESG. But to be honest, they have slight differences in between all of them. Okay, so I'll just give some, a little bit of details how we're going to differentiate it. Basically, is how as an investor, we approach the ESG, okay? The first one is the exclusions, or we call it ethical or SRI investing. The second one is ESG integration, or normally in common, we call it ESG investing. And the third one is a thematic or impact. So normally we call it impact investing. So ethical or SRI investing is very easy only. Basically, it's similar to Sharia. Okay, so basically you just avoid, or you just reject all those industry or companies which conflict with some of the values or ethics, or basically we call it the sin stocks, like those sectors or companies in the producing the fossil fuel, oil and gas, or produce the tobacco, gambling, or weapons. So basically, when we approach this investing, basically we just take out all the companies related to this. We don't invest at all in this kind of companies. So we call it SRI investing. And the next one is ESG investing is a more linear. Basically, there's no discrimination in between industry or companies. Basically, every industry is okay to invest, but we will take into the ESG factors, we'll evaluate, and we will, weigh the risk, okay? And we will come up with the ratings, and we say whether we can, and we come up with the risk-adjusted returns, okay? So basically, this kind of method is we will pick the best in the class or among the same industry, okay? The best performance. And the third one is, this one is a more advanced, okay? It's basically is require the investment or the invested companies to produce some kind of positive impacts, whether to the society, to environment, okay? And or to the social, okay? And this must be measurable. The end result must be measurable. So this is more stringent. They have a more stringent requirements and evaluation metrics than these two. And basically, this kind of investing is, the investable industrial companies are pretty much smaller, okay, even smaller than this, okay, it could be. And this kind of investment normally is more to illiquid, okay, a lot of startup or in the private market or the fund, a thematic or specific funds. So not for the majors, okay. But anyway, all these, all you can say all different types of investment, but in the end, all in all, they all will point to the same. they will be using the same or the similar ESG criteria. They take into account and then to evaluate it. And for the rest, I mean, mainly for today's webinar, we will be mainly focusing on the ESG integration, or we call it ESG investing, okay? Because, I mean, this will give us a broader choice of investment, okay, across different industry and different companies. And so next is we will discuss a little details, okay? I mean, just brief to go through what are the things, how we conduct the ESG investing or ESG integration. So first is we must be able to identify the ESG issues, okay, regarding specific, let's say a specific companies, okay. Definitely, different companies, different industries, they will be facing different ESG issues, right? Let's say oil and gas company, mainly they will be having issues on environmental because they will be producing a lot of this carbon dioxide, okay, when during their business activities. If compared to say company like telco or IT, definitely they will not having this kind of issue, right? They'll be facing very different issues. So you have to identify what kind of whether is it E or S or G, which one is more relevant to the company and it will affect the company. And the next one is you must be determined whether is it a big risk or is it will it be an opportunity for the company, okay? And then from here we can consider, we can assess how the company going to address all these issues over a time horizon, okay? And the last one is we're going to integrate the risk and opportunity basically into the valuations, okay? Or we take the rating and then we will be adjusting the target price. Basically, I will show, I mean, there will be a few examples later on. I will show this later on based on some of the reports produced by either local or foreign these analyst reports. And okay, so here's the example how ESG issue going to impact the target price. Let's say for KLK. KLK is a palm oil company, right? So it's listed in the Bursa. So you can see here. Okay. So here is the report produced by CIMB. So you can see that based on here, they apply a 10% discount. So what this 10% discount for is over here. So they are saying that basically the palm oil industry is having a concern on the potential gaps in the labor practice. Basically, it's an illegal labor, okay, or labor issue, right? So among the planters, so they will be adding this 10% discount to the SOP to reflect these concerns. So from the target price of SOP price of 32.9, so they apply a 10% discount. So they come up with a target price, lower target price of 29.57 ringgit. So this is how, I mean, the analysts, they integrate this kind of ESG criteria into the financial and into this estimation of target price. And the next is, okay, so I will basically, when we deal with when we want to know about the issues, right? Basically, there's a few guidance, okay? And all these guidance, basically they are created or they're shared or they're advised by those data, I mean, the rating houses or the data providers, or even like, let's say the local analysts or local research houses. So they will come up with their own. The bad thing is until right now, there's no one standard standard set of data or requirement, I mean, will be applied across everyone across the globe. So everyone, every rating houses, every research houses, they are using their own set of issues or criteria to evaluate companies. So you will see a lot of difference in between the ratings. I mean, for the same companies, there will be different ratings. Result came out, I mean, published by the different rating houses or different analysts. Okay. So anyway, I'll just show you that two of the most famous one. Okay, MSCI. FTSE Russell is basically it's adopted by this PUSA. That's why I show this as well. So basically the pillars is all the same. It will be environment, social, and governance. All these are the main one, no? Okay. And the themes, starting for the themes, you can see that MSCI, they are using the 10 themes. Okay. They are focusing on this kind of themes. And FTSE Russell, they are using more themes. They are having 14 themes. Okay. And then key issues is MSCI, they have 35 key issues. Okay. And this FTSE Russell, they are having more than 300 issues. So you can see there's a quite huge difference. Okay. But if you look into details, I mean, especially on the themes, basically it's all are quite similar. Okay, all are quite similar. And even the key issues also, basically they are all about risk and opportunities. Okay. And it's all surrounded about environment, social, and governance. You can see that MSCI is, let's say, the climate change vulnerability and what is the opportunities over here. Okay, within the environmental, there will be challenges, the risks, and of course, there will be opportunities. Okay, social as well. Okay, and the governance. So, I mean, when you compare in detail, basically, I mean, quite similar lah. Okay, but just there will be a tiny bits of differences. So now we will go to the disclosure and commitments. Okay, basically, in order to come up with the ratings, okay, you need to have data, right? Okay, so all this data, basically, it must be disclosed by the companies or basically or by the funds. Okay, there are two main sources where the researchers or the rating agencies, they get the data. It's mainly by the disclosure by the companies. So they will collect the data, or basically the companies, they'll publish all sorts of data, either in their annual reports or in the survey form by these rating houses. And they will be telling the investor how they're going to solve, what are the issues that they are addressing, okay, they are facing, and how they're going to address all these issues. And the funds are basically, it's like they have to disclose to their investor, okay, whether under their portfolio, what is the carbon footprint, I mean, and then, yeah, how they're going to, how they select the companies, how they evaluate the companies based on the ESG, how they approach this invest. Remember, we talked about the 3 types of styles, right? So which kind of approaches they adopted. So all these are the things that the funds were going to be closer, okay? And right now, of course, to disclose all this, you must have sort of like a standard, right? Because of the guidance. Because all this basically is just like accounting. You need to follow a set of a standard, right? Okay, or the guidance. So there will be, so right now we are going to see more and more independent organizations. They come up with a reporting framework. Okay, take example here, we got a TCFD. It's quite a emerging one, which is mainly related to the climate risk or so they will provide the guidance how companies can disclose their informations or the climate related financial and also the recommendations. Okay, and then actually this TCFD is gaining popularity because many regulators and the stock exchange, they are already saying that they will align with the TCFD guidelines in the future. Okay, because basically the climate, one of the, I mean, it can be a little bit complicated when you want to disclose this, because basically it's surround on the carbon emissions, right? So, and the carbon emissions, they have scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. I'm not going to share about the details on this, but you guys can take a look. Okay, actually even I think last year webinar, I think David shared some details on this, the 3 types of scope as well, the carbon emissions. So under this TCFD guideline, they will provide you the details and the recommendations, how a company is going to disclose, how they're going to calculate their carbon emissions, all sort of details. And we have this GRI is a widely used standards for the reporting, and basically this has been adopted by a lot of companies and in a lot of countries. And the next one is this value reporting. So basically, it's set disclosure standard for as many as 77 industry. So because among the industry, there will be different set of standards, right, requirements. So they are disclosing, they are providing this kind of details. So the next is, let's take a look on the, how does progress, for, take this from HSBC report. Okay, basically it is outline the exchange among the major exchanges in the Asian and in some of the Asian countries. So you can see that Malaysia over here, we already, Bursa Malaysia already make it a mandatory for ESG disclosure rule. Means that all listed companies, they must disclose issues regarding ESG. Okay, but on the climate related disclosure, still on a voluntary basis. Okay, but this Bank Negara, they already proposed to have this kind of they already proposed to have a requirement for to be enforced by 2024. So you can see this, everyone is starting to enforce the ESG disclosure and also the climate related disclosure. So going forward, this will be a standard, a requirement for all the companies, especially listed companies. And of course, when we talk about ESG disclosure, actually it's not that easy. Okay, currently there are a lot of challenges, regarding this. And I will list down some of it. For the first one, of course, is no clear guidance. Okay, no standard format or a consistent framework. Okay, everyone is there's no. It's not like the accounting. You have a fixed. Standard one across all. Okay, but here you have different agencies. They are adopting a different kind of reporting framework or format. Okay, so it's sometimes it's hard for the companies. They don't know which one to follow, right? So this one must be an effort, okay, done by the, let's say, the Bursa or the Bank Negara. So they will be the one who need to push and to regulate it, okay. The next one is accountability involvement for management. Okay, of course, this is an extra cost, right? So you need to have a different team or extra manpower to work and handle all this, because it's not easy, to be honest. And then, of course, some, like say the climate related disclosure is still on a voluntary basis, so not mandatory. So not every company, they will go and waste the time, or to have the extra effort to go and disclose it. And then some of the ESG data actually is quite difficult to obtain. Okay, let's say your social, or your governance, how you're going to, some information is quite tough or it's hard to quantify. Okay, so, and then of course there are also historical comparative data. There's no comparison, okay, for the past. So the companies is like sometimes they are quite they will be having a difficulty, okay, to produce the data. And of course, all this disclosure normally is a backward looking, okay. But remember, ESG is when we talk about the risk or opportunity, is the one that we're going to face, right? It's all about the future. It's not about the past. But in order to come up with sort of like the disclosure, basically it's more easier for people to refer to the past events. So here comes the things. So I'll quote one article. It's quite interesting. Okay, it's published by the Focus back in last year, February. So you can see that they discuss about some of the issues regarding ESG disclosure. So it's quite straight to the point, okay? Not many companies are willing to disclose them freely for various reasons. They do this basically is they get nothing right normally, okay? And then since if it's not a mandatory requirement, then of course they will not waste the time or manpower to go and disclose it. And of course, only the bigger company, they have more resources, okay, to be able to do this. So normally you'll find more disclosure from the bigger companies, okay, especially on the MNC, because they are facing right now if you compare among the Western and the Asian companies, the Western normally they have a more stringent ESG disclosure rules. So the companies over there, they have to disclose more, but not in the Asian countries. But right now we are catching up already with the standards, okay? And then of course there are lack of consistency and substance, okay? And then in regards to, how they come up with the scoring and rating, basically you can see that, some of the points actually they just sort of like the data, the fundamental data is they just based on the questions asked. Okay, and it's questions and answer. It's a question answered by the companies. Okay, and then they just based on that to gather the information and to come up with the ratings. So some issues are not able to be quantified. So that's why you can see the discrepancy among these different rating agencies. Yeah, and then the data gathering also, it's quite difficult for them. Okay, so basically they also will refer to secondary resources like the annual reports, corporate website, internet, etc. Yeah, so the next, when we will go into more details regarding the E and S and G, and we will be sharing about some of the case studies. Okay. Okay, the first one is, of course, when we talk about ESG, actually, even if you read about articles on magazine or on the news or on the podcast or on the reports, right? Basically, everyone is the first issues that everyone will be focused is climate. Okay, so although ESG means environmental, social, and governance, right? So, but most of the people or most of the investors basically they emphasize more on the environmental, okay, especially on the climate risk. Why? Because it's a risk that everyone is feeling right now. Okay, you can see that based on the data, the extreme weather events has caused a lot of damages to the world. Okay, if we compare to the past decades, okay, in this decade it's about 2.25 trillion damages has been done. If you compare to the previous decade, which is even less than 1 trillion. And that's why the climate change is a big issue right now. It's facing by all the humankind. And then it's basically referred to the long-term shift. It's a temperature and the weather change. Okay, and then we will have more like, let's say, flooding, okay, hurricanes. All these are the changes in the weather patterns, and we are facing the risk. Okay, and you can see that the natural disaster, they are causing a huge economic loss in the world. So this is a report came out by the AON, by the AON. So this is the figure. You can see that in the last year, okay, the most damaging one is a hurricane happened in the US. Okay, it caused a 96 death, and it caused about more than 75 billion economic loss. And then the second and third are actually all floods. Okay, it happened in the Europe and also in China as well, and caused more death. Okay, and also a lot of economic losses. Okay, all in billions. Okay, and of course, don't forget, in Malaysia, we also face a similar issue. Okay, back in December and January, last year. Okay, in December last year, okay, the flooding in Klang Valley, okay, it took about 45 deaths, okay, and it has been resulted 6.1 billion losses is reported. Okay, so these are huge losses. Okay, and then it's non-diversifiable, and all this will cause an impact on the companies. We'll discuss in detail in the next slide. So basically, according to TCFD, okay, regarding the climate, this climate factor or environment factor, okay. So we will have they have a sort of like definition for the risk and for the opportunities. So as an investor, we can always focus on the risk and as well as the opportunities, and we see which one. How the company going to handle the risk and how they overcome and turn it into opportunities. So these are the key things that we are looking for when we're finding for the investment. So first is when we talk about the physical climate risk, of course, they having two definition. One is for the acute, means for the extreme weather events, and one is for the chronic. So example of the acute physical risk includes floods, heat wave, wildfires, storm, hurricane, or typhoons. For the example of a chronic one is on the rising sea levels, rising temperatures, and ocean acidifications. One good example for this acute physical risk is actually a flood, which causing damage to a lot of companies operating in Thailand back in 2011. So one example is, one of the company is Western Digital. Okay, so at that time, you can see that it caused them interruptions of operation for more than a month, exactly 46 days. Okay, and then 60% of their productions was down. Okay, because of the flood. Okay, and then this disruption has caused the company to lose their market share to competitors like Seagate. Okay, and then they also reported $109 million of the fixed asset impairments. Okay, they also write down 28 million of damaged inventory, and also they also paid wage continuation up to 23 million. So all this, is having a big impact to the companies. Okay, and I think it caused the company share price to drop more than 30% when the news broke out. And then, not to mention the 2011 flood, the big flood in Bangkok in Thailand has caused the Thailand to suffer more than 46 billion of economic damages. Okay, this figure is estimated by World Bank. So these are very, very big figures, even for a country itself, not to say for the company. So this, is becoming a bigger risk because right now we are facing more and more this kind of physical climate risk, right? There are more flooding happening right now. So all these, companies, they are getting more serious. And as an investor as well, we must be more, we must know all these kind of things when we assess the companies. So the next is a transition climate risk. So what is this? Is they having 4 subsets, okay? Policy and legal, technology, market, and reputations. So basically, they are saying that there will be risk to the companies if the government, they start the carbon pricing and reporting obligations, okay? And then, of course, on the technology side, if let's say there will be change, in the products or services, let's say consumers, they are adopting more greener options like the EV cars compared to the current ICE. So this will be a huge, impact to the business of the conventional car makers, right? Yeah, like the changing customer behavior. Yeah, and then shift in the consumer preferences as well. So all these are they call it transition climate risk. And I want to highlight one is regarding this carbon pricing, because I think this is going to be a major issue going forward. Okay, especially when everyone is talking about this climate change. So when every country, okay, they start to adopt the carbon pricing, it will have a big impact on all the industry, on all the companies in the world, okay, either direct or indirectly. And it will be sort of like the extra cost. And this cost, it may or it will be passed through from the supply chain, okay, down all the way to consumers. So this could be the hidden push for the inflation as well in the future, because when the costs are all passed through, so I mean, in the end, consumer is the one going to bear, I mean, the extra costs. So I will quote example. These are the estimation done, I mean, by the Afin Huang. So recently they came out a report specifically discuss about the carbon pricing impact. So these are their scenario analysis. So you can see that they list down. There's three scenarios. Okay, when the government they start charging a 15 ringgit per metric ton of carbon dioxide. So these are the impacts going to have on the different types of industry. Okay, when it is a 75 per metric ton of carbon dioxide emissions, and when there's a 150 per metric ton of carbon dioxide emissions. So you can see that basically the most impacted industry will be utilities, building materials, transport, logistics, oil and gas. Yeah, these four. Yeah, and don't forget all these four, basically they will have a big impact on our consumer prices as well. So especially like, let's say here it will impact the oil price, right? Our petrol prices, transport and logistics about, it will impact everything lah, basically, because we need them to deliver the foods, I mean the supply chain, they are the backbone of supply chain. Building materials, on the constructions, on our housing, everything, utilities, on our power, on our energy. Yeah. So similarly, they are basically their cross reference to this as well is EY is a report produced by EY estimated impact of carbon tax on industry as well. So you can see that the most impacted industry will be electric power generations. Okay, and don't forget in the future, if everyone is adopting the EV, so we will be using more electric power. Yeah, so yeah, this will be an interesting case study in the future. So next we go to, as we always say, this crisis begets opportunities, right? So of course, when there's a risk, there will be also opportunities. So let's say here, there are a few opportunities that can be spotted, of course. So let's say when there's a change in the mode of efficient to a more efficient transport or production, so we can relate it to the EV lah, okay? And on the recycling, of course, right now, waste recycling or even like the battery recycling in the future, low emission source of energy, of course, the first one we think of will be the renewable energy. And then some sort of like the development of new product or services, or R&D is like the carbon capture or storage. Okay, so as more and more countries around the world, they are introducing more stringent climate policies and net zero targets. So all these new policies, they will turn into a new, I mean, sort of like opportunities. Of course, in more simple word means there will be funds or flow of money, okay, flow into a different kind of the markets based on the loans and or the investment opportunities. So I will just quote a simple one. Okay, this is from the IEA report. So it's just showing that the capital or the money, there will be where the money will be flowing in the future, right? So they will be flowing to a more green technology or more renewable energy, let's say over here. And then you can see that the clean technology, it will be the main target of investment for the next decades. Okay, so let's say electric car, okay, over here, and then renewable energy as well. So all these are the opportunities that we can look for, okay, for the next decades. And the next is on the social risk, okay. So S basically is a social risk is about how a company manages relationship with the workers, okay, with their societies, and of course the political environmental. And the social pillar has been lagged because they are more difficult to define, okay, to disclose or to report or even to evaluate. That's why it has been lagged if compared to the environmental factors in the past. But nonetheless, this is very, important as well, especially let's say for Malaysia. I just take it as an example, okay, because due to this Andy Hall, right? Okay, so Malaysian companies has recently well known, especially to the overseas, to the foreign investor, because of this S issue, the social issues, the labor issues on our glove manufacturing, on our EMS, all this, is becoming a big news, reported on the overseas news and articles. Okay, so these are a few risks or the factors that are related to the social. Okay, first is health, safety, and working conditions. Okay, and then the impact on local communities and stakeholders of positions. So actually, you can see when you read about the annual reports of the companies, right? Normally, they will be reporting this kind of the social activities that the companies conducted over the past year. Okay, yeah. So this is kind of like how they disclose it. The companies, they are doing good things back to the company, that contribute back to the local communities. And then diversity, inclusion, and equal opportunities. Okay, and then human rights, labor rights, and data privacy. Okay, so I want to emphasize this is on the data privacy because it's over here in the local market, we are focusing more on the health, safety, and working conditions, and also the labor rights, right? But in overseas, the US, actually data privacy is becoming a very big issue, okay, especially for those cloud companies or even social media companies. Take for one example is Facebook, okay. I think 2 years ago, so FTC imposed a 5 billion penalty on the Facebook because of this scandal on the Cambridge Analytica privacy violations. So it's I think still the largest penalty. Okay, it's been imposed by the FTC, and Facebook has paid 5 billion. Okay, I think they paid more in the end. Okay, and if you compare to other like violations on the privacy, data privacy means, this one is definitely it's a very, very big case. And just imagine how big is impacting the bottom line, even the bottom line for the company, 5 billion. Okay, and governance risk. Okay, so mainly governments cover the board of directors, the management structures, as well as the company policies, their standards, their information disclosure, their accounting, their auditings, and so their compliances. So a good corporate governance, it can instill or promote the investor confidence. Okay, and basically a good corporate governance company also, they would engage more relations with the investors. They will be talking more and share more with their investor. Okay, they will be more transparent. Okay, in their accounting or in their public public announcement or disclosure. as well as they will encourage their shareholder engagement. Okay, and these are the factors, some of the examples of the factors, which is board oversight, board diversity. Okay, basically is the female compositions, how many male and female sitting in the board. Okay, and then compensations of the executive. So right now, I think companies, they have to disclose the exact amount, how much they paid to their executive, to their boards. Okay, and of course, bribery and corruptions. This is the risk. Okay, transparency, of course, and shareholder rights. Whether are they friendly to shareholder or not. Okay, all this I mean is a criteria that investor, of course, they will be looking for. So one good example, I mean, of the risk and the damages is when we talk about the government, is the famous one is the Volkswagen. Okay, there are this emission scandal. Okay, so because of this scandal, okay, they have caused the share price to plummet 30%. Okay, because it was reported they manipulate the emission test data on the vehicles in the US and Europe. And why? Because they are highly centralized and more junior managers were frightened to speak their mind. So basically, this is more about the governance, the corporate governance among the companies, which has caused all the issues to happen. Okay, and so the last one is we're going to share. We're going to see some of the two examples of local listed companies. Okay, the first one is I think everyone's know about this. Is ATMS. It's a contract termination by Dyson over forced labor. Okay, I will just share the simple chronology. This one, I got it from the Business and Human Rights Resource Center. So sometime in May 2021, so there's a news broken out that the US CBP saying that they are investigating ATMS over the forced labor allegations. So immediately, 21st of May, and 20th of May, the company share price plunged, I think, 17% within a day. And the next day, the company published, I mean, they denied the allegations, okay? And over the next month, so they have started, they coordinate with the regulators and then they refute the claims, okay? So basically they are saying that they did not exploit, okay? They are practicing good, okay? So they are not what reported by the UK, especially the news, because the news first came out from the UK. And then on the 5th of July, interestingly, actually Dyson also sort of responded, okay? They sort of like defended as well. They are saying that they didn't find any wrongdoing, okay, based on their investigations, okay. But after that, on the 25th of November, so officially they said they're going to end the contract with the ATMS over the labor concerns, okay. And then Malaysia also, government also take strict actions, okay, to charge the ATA with labor law violations. I think this case they're still ongoing, okay. The final result I think is yet to come out, but it has caused a lot of damages to the companies based their financial performance. You can see that, okay, they drop. I mean, basically because Dyson's contract is more than 80%. It's a very important client for the ATMS. Dyson is a very important client to them. So when they lost this client, basically all their business has gone. And then you can see that their share price as well. Okay, so they have, I think they have lost more than 80%. So these are the example that when you ignore some of the ESG factors, it will cause a big damage to the company. Okay. The next is we are going to Yeah, sorry. Yeah, and here also I give an example. I mean, immediately after Dyson announced the contract termination, so all the analysts, they also came up with the reports, right? So take example from CSMB on 26th of November. Okay, so they start to downgrade it. You can see that they impose an ESG discount of 20%. Okay, on the share price as well. So all this are, I mean, how it shows that ESG is related to the target price or the integrations of the ESG risk into the financial reports and also the valuations. The next one is we're going to have a little bit interesting discussions on whether oil and gas players are they investable or not. Because based on environmental, basically the oil and gas players, they are the one that who will get hit the most, right? Because the carbon emission and the climate transition risk will be the biggest challenges for them. Because no way they can avoid it when they still produce this oil and gas, the crude oil and the gases, right? And then also the competition for the RE and the more restriction imposed by the government on the fossil fuel, it will impact their long-term sales and profitability, okay? And it will lead to their asset impairments as well when they cannot sell more, when there's no more demand, right? So basically this will be a big impact to them. And then, there's a few articles. Actually, there are more and more hot debates coming out, okay, on whether is it the ESG is having a discriminations on this oil and gas company, and are they doing more good or bad to the industry? Okay, we take Russia and Ukraine war. It could be a first test for the ESG, because when we emphasize too much on the E, it will cause, like right now the example is to the oil and gas sector, is it will cause an underinvestment, okay, into the sector. And this is one of the reasons that will cause there's less supply, and in the end it push up the oil price, and it's causing the oil price to hike to a very high level and push the inflations. And then as well as the heavy reliance on the Russian gas by EU countries, because in the past the EU countries, because they embrace the ESG, embrace the green, right? So they didn't really go and invest a lot in developing a new green to discover more oil and gas in their countries. And then that's why they rely more on the Russian. But right now, after the war, so this will cause a very big issue for them, because they need the gas, or they need the oil for their energy. So they are facing energy crisis right now. So there are a lot of debates on this. And there's a report, there's a data, I took this from Barron's, okay? So it shows that basically it's very obvious, ESG fund, okay? They are, when they compare to the other traditional or conventional funds, they typically, they underinvest, they will invest less in the energy sector, okay? Because remember the three philosophies or the three approaches. So when the exclusion, so basically when they come to this E issue, so they are reluctant to invest more in this kind of traditional oil and gas company, because it's violate the most to the E, to the environmental. But we have to know that ESG rating are not climate ratings, right? And then, so here's the example, the huge difference in between the SRI investing or the exclusion investing versus the ESG investing. So if we adopt the ESG investing, it's still investable for us, for the oil and gas industry. It's still investable, just we need to pick the best or the good players among all, right? But for SRI investor, basically the first step, they will just ignore all the oil and gas companies. And I think this JP Morgan report is very good that it highlights that basically one of the key issue that the ESG reporting lacks is they don't really consider the market demand. In this case, it's the oil and gas demand. Okay, they just assume that the demand would just disappear in the future, but in reality, people will still need oil or gas. I mean, at least for the next 2 to 5 years or for 10 years, right? So this is the issue that normally the ESG reporting they lacks of. Okay, so in our this case study is I'll talk a little bit on the hibiscus. Okay, interestingly, hibiscus is, although it's an oil and gas company, okay, but it is a constitution of FTSE for Good Bursa Malaysia Index. Okay, and they even got a 4-star rating, the highest rating for the FTSE Russell. Okay, and then they also been recognized for this also under the COP26. I mean the climate change framework. They are participating in, and then they are actively participating in, and they are recognized by the foreign rating agencies as well. Okay, these are some of the efforts they done. I picked this from their annual reports. You guys can take a look. And I want to say is, based on our previous discussions on the lack of underinvestment, so this is an interesting scenario that given by this hibiscus. So basically, they are saying that in the past, okay, in the past, when there are more and more, when the oil price is higher, okay, so it will push for the players to invest more to grow the production and reserve. Okay, so when the production grows, your supply grow, right? So when there are more supply than demand, so it will push down the price. Okay, but in current situation, they expect maybe in the future when more and more ESG coming in. Okay, so you have this. The climate change is a goal. So more and more oil and gas companies, they will be very cautious in investing or in developing a new field. Okay, and then right now you have the Russian and Ukraine war. Okay, so you will have a reduced in supply from the Russia side as well. And then, so all this, it will lead to the spending on the upstream, on the oil and gas will be less. So in the end, it may push the price upper. So it will cost more on the oil price, and indirectly it will cause a hike in the more inflations. It will cause more inflations in the fuel price and also food price. So it's interesting discussions. Okay, but anyway, I just want to show that actually even for the hibiscus, they are embracing the disclosure as well. So these are the things that this is the effort they shown. Okay, you can see that they published this report. Okay, saying that basically they are complying with the TCFD disclosure. Okay, so they are listing down a lot of the climate related risks and opportunities. Okay, and how they're going to overcome it. And you can see the first risk, of course, on the transition risk, the one that we talked about just now, is on the possible decline in the market demand for oil, right? So to overcome this, to mitigate this, so their plan is they want to acquire new assets to increase their gas. So they want to produce more gas than oil in the future to balance it. Okay, and also they are having internal carbon price. They're starting this. They want to prepare if the carbon tax coming in, so they will be able to encounter it in the future. And interestingly, in February 2022, actually the EU has proposed that to label natural gas and also this nuclear as a investment as a green. So it's quite a contradict. So right now, only oil is considered not green. Gas is natural gas can be green, okay, under certain circumstances. So in order to do this, actually you can see that the company is actively they're acquiring the assets, new assets. So for example, they just acquire the assets from the Repsol. So you can see this under the new acquisition. So they're able to diversify more into gas. So previously, their portfolio only consists of 4% of gas productions. But after these acquisitions, they're able to increase their portfolio to have more than 31% of gas. So they're able to produce more gas. So this is part of how they're going to achieve their target, okay, in the mitigations of the transition risk. So, I mean, it just shows that the companies, they are able to adopt the changes, okay, and then they are trying to turn it into the opportunities, because by doing this, actually they're able to increase their productions, and in the end, they're able to increase their sales as well as their bottom line as well. So as well as on their valuation. So we will see how, because they will be on their upcoming result. So they will disclose more result once they integrate the Repsol into their group result. So we will see how, how the performance of the company going to be after this. So it will be interesting case study as well. Yeah. So that's all from me. Chun Xian, back to you.
All right, thank you so much, King, for sharing with us, very insightful knowledge about the ESG concern, why it causes share prices to fall, and what are the emerging opportunities from the ESG space, as well as some relevant case study for us to relate to what is ongoing now. So if you have any questions to ask our speaker today, please feel free to type them in the question and answer box, and then we will address them accordingly. The first question is by Yip King. With oil prices back to all-time high, is ESG still relevant or not, since Malaysia is a net oil exporter country?
Interesting issue. Interesting questions. Okay. I think we have to strike a balance, okay, in between. And I think for the US side, let's say, I think the Biden administration, they're still a bit reluctant to open out, to open out the licenses for the exploration licenses, okay, for some of their reserve. But as you can see that industry players, they are demanding more. And then the high oil price, actually, they are putting a lot of pressure on a lot of governments, especially in the US as well as in the Europe. So we will see, I guess, the industry, they will have some ongoing changes. They slowly adopt, and to adopt to the regulations, especially to comply with the gas emissions. At the same time, they're trying to meet the demand. But all these are not that easy task to be done, and it will take some time. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, King, for addressing the question.
And
the next question is how...
Yeah.
Yes, how carbon emissions rate can be traded and how does it work? That's by Jane.
Okay, right now, we are still waiting for more details from the regulators, from the exchanges as well. There's no fixed prices or the fixed policy coming up yet. Yeah.
Okay. So in Malaysia, which industry that we must be aware that this could be more vulnerable to the ESG rating concern?
of course, as just now my slide, utilities, oil and gas. So as you can see, utilities, the most vulnerable is, I mean, among the listed PLC companies in Bursa is Tenaga. Yeah, because they are producing a lot of this power from the coal power plant. Yeah, that's why they are receiving a lot of pressure. Okay, and they are trying to transform to develop more renewable energy to offset this. And but to phase out this coal power plant, it takes time, not that easy. Yeah, you need to balance in between the cost, because if you phase out right now, you don't have enough renewable energy for the backup, so you have an energy shortage. It will become an energy crisis in this country. So it's not that easy. And you can see that's why the share price of Tenaga, I mean, a little bit weak for the past few years already, because a lot of investors, a lot of funds, especially foreign funds, they are trying to shy out from this. Yeah.
Yeah, because for the past few years, I've always got people coming to me and and ask, why is the Tenaga price still on downtrend despite because ESG concern seems to be bothering them for a prolonged period of time. And that leads me to wonder what would be a fair valuation to companies, utility companies that in power generation using let's say majority in coal production, coal generation power, right? So have you done any research in the foreign exchange, like all these utility companies, they are generating power using coal? What is their PE like and what is the U like?
Sorry, I didn't have a very detailed study.
Okay, understand. No problem. Yes, see if there's any more questions. Now we know that in the technology sector, right, the EMS sector is fairly vulnerable, okay, to the ESG concern. Maybe it's due to their margin, because I think in EMS the margin is lower in comparison to other players such as OSAT or ATE. So do you have any thoughts in that? Like how would these EMS players be able to make sure that they will be safe from this ESG concern going forward?
I think everyone is trying to more automation. I think that's a trend. Try to reduce the workers and to automate more of the processes. Yeah. So because EMS is a labor intensive industry, right? So everyone knows. So when you are having an issue on to get the labor, so the best thing to do is actually to try to automate more. Yeah, try to reduce the labor requirement. I think that's the way forward. And it's not easy to solve as well. Okay, at this juncture, I believe. Yeah.
Is there any update from the Andy Hall issues? I think I actually lost track of it.
No, so far I think they are still. I think the investigation is not officially ended yet. I think it's still ongoing. Yeah, but I think Dyson side already said they already cut the contract. Yeah. So it depends which player they are going to shift the contracts to. Yeah. But from what we heard, I mean, the players like the VS or even SKP Resources, under the current, because everyone is facing issues to get especially foreign laborers, right? So everyone is resort to try to train more and to employ more the local laborers, and at the same time trying to automate more. Yeah, that will help. If you have more automation, actually it will help on this bottom line as well. They can increase the margin. Yeah.
Okay, understand. All right. So yeah, I think let's do one more, which is now when do you think that we will have a standardized format in ESG rating?
To be honest, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah.
No idea now when the
No
standardized
idea.
format
No idea.
is. All right.
It's
I think
quite
today,
complicated. It's quite complicated.
yeah, I think you really, in my opinion, really did a fantastic job in doing these ESG studies. I think a lot of us here could be very new to ESG investing. I personally have learned a great deal in this session. I'm not sure if you do. If you really like the session, right, maybe give me a 1. Okay, let me know if any of you here would really treasure the session today.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, because not many people I come across are able to curate this content. So we actually look around for quite a while before we can find someone who is knowledgeable in this area lah. So thank you so much, King, for doing this segment for us. Let me share my screen. Yes, wow, a lot of people commented 1. All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for responding to my simple request survey, okay, to know how was the session going. So with that, thank everybody for joining this session.